What's up?
Hey, Al, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm just going to reposition my camera here so my
Yeah.
big head is not in the frame. All right, thanks for joining us. And again, for anybody who's joining the live stream now, welcome. If you've seen us do these before, again, my name is Ben. I'm the editor of Performer Magazine, and Elixir kind of lets me take over their channel every couple months so that we can have one of these chats. So thanks to Al for joining us, and thanks to Elixir for letting us host.
Cool, man. Thanks for having me.
What we normally like to do is kind of get to know the artist a little bit, learn a little bit about your musical background, kind of where you're coming from, kind of talk shop for a little bit about guitars and tech and gear in general, maybe have you demonstrate a few things that we have questions on. And then at the end, we do a little Q&A that users have submitted questions for, if that's cool with everybody.
Hell yeah.
Awesome. So, Al, for those who maybe aren't super familiar with you, I know you and I talked a little bit the other day briefly when we were doing a little test run, and you're actually a Berkeley guy, which is awesome. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about kind of your journey through the guitar, maybe how you landed at Berkeley and sort of how you progressed to where you are today. And we'll talk about where you are today, obviously.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Berkeley started being a dream of mine to go to ever since I saw it was Dream Theater's 20th anniversary. It was like Score, that DVD. And when they talked about going there, I'm pretty sure that was like around, I want to say like Jesus, I forget what year that came out. But anyway, as soon as I saw that, I was like, I want to go. And then I ended up going a different path for a while and then winding right back up there in 2011. So that was a cool experience. Got to meet a lot of great musicians and it was just nice for a change to get around the music life for a while and just immerse myself completely in it, which was great. So, it was a great experience for sure. I wouldn't say it's for progressive metal guitarists, but I still learned a lot. So, and I still got a lot of contacts and friends and stuff like that. So,
where are you from originally?
Scranton, Pennsylvania, actually.
Oh, okay, you're a Pennsylvania guy, so still Northeast.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't have been a huge culture shock to you. I know a lot of people who end up at Berkeley who are, not from the Northeast. It's it's different.
Oh yeah. It's cold. There's that. And it's like you said, it's different. There's a lot more like, I want to say, no bullshit attitude there, which is good. I mean it's a nice mix of that, and just there's a lot of just hardworking people over there. Honestly, there's just a lot of aloofness here in LA, which is good for some things.
Yeah,
it's good to decompress and learn to like unwind and not be so serious all the time about stuff. But it is good to have the work ethic there too. So
absolutely,
yeah, for sure.
So let's take it back just a little bit before we get into kind of the more technique part of the discussion. But you're in Scranton, and what kind of leads you to the guitar in the first place?
So we were playing a lot in like local churches and stuff, and my family's very heavily into like the whole gospel scene. They're all like, they're all very successful in that route. And so we, being from over there, it was nice to get into something new. And my dad introduced us to Living Color and Joe Satriani and all that stuff. I mean, he just had all these CDs, all this gold sitting there, so like it was just, I don't know, electric guitar kind of reached out and grabbed me at a pretty early age, so that's just how it just kind of spiraled up from there, just more one influence after the other. Korn, you saw Cold Chamber, Linkin Park, Deftones, like all that kind of stuff. That's just pretty much my school of metal right there. So
do you remember your first guitar?
My first guitar, my first electric guitar, my football coach in high school, my dad went to just look for a good deal on one, and he ended up having this old Yamaha, I think it's RGX 112, I remember, and it was just like this old, like it was all white, and I wanted to be just like Joe's, you know what I mean? So it was like this all white guitar. It had a whammy bar on it. It wasn't floating, but it was like a stop tail, and it had like a humbucker single coil configuration with it. So that was the first one.
Yeah, that was the go-to back in the day. Everybody had the HS
Hell yeah.
kind of lined
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk about the guitar that you're holding. Now, is this the
Yes.
Kiesel that I've seen in a bunch of your Instagram?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So this is coming out Friday.
No, is this an official signature?
Yes.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
How have the Kiesel guys been to work with? Are you working with Jeff directly on this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Always. I mean, that was kind of the deal from day one. I remember the last NAMM we went to, I think that was 2020, right? 2020?
Yes,
Yeah.
NAMM 2020.
Might have been 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, some things were just going on where I was at before, and I was just desiring a change. It seemed like life was pushing me into a change, put it that way. And as soon as I got there, I have a really good relationship with Chris Johnson from Dunlop, and he just started taking over the artist relations at Kiesel. So we have been doing some podcasts together and everything, and I just remember him having all his Kiesels lined up. I'm just like, man, you know what I'm saying? They've got some configurations going, they got some options going, so the wheels started turning then. And as soon as I stepped foot, I mean, literally, as soon as I stepped foot in the convention center, Chris is like, get your ass over to the Kiesel booth now. I'm like, okay, let's do it. Let's just do it. Let's just see what happens. And met up with Jeff, and the rest is history, man. I mean, the guy is just, I always want to ask him. I know he's from California, but he's like an East Coast guy. He really is, like, deep down. It's a no bullshit, like East Coast dude, you know what I'm saying? He's got his flaws, and he wears it on his sleeve, and he doesn't give a fuck. He just doesn't care. He's just a raw person. He's not always acting and trying to be cool or trying to be overly nice. He's just being himself. And that was just like the main thing. And he noticed that from me as well. And it just kind of clicked. So we just started working on this guitar, getting to this point right away. And, we've gone through like 11 different models now that hanging around, but eventually wound up with this guy.
So hold it up so we can see.
Yeah, man. So so what we did pretty much was,
I'm getting a closer look. Sorry.
Yeah, sure.
What we did. What's the color called? Because that's a beautiful blue.
Yeah. So the color is called Pearl Blue. It's his favorite thing, and I just remember because my Ibanez's were blue and gold all the time. So he was like, man, let's try to do the same thing. I was like, I don't know, but he finally convinced me to do it, and I got to tell you, man, it's just like the video doesn't do it justice. You got to see this thing in real life. It's just sleek as hell. So
wait, turn it around.
Yeah.
Turn it around.
Yeah. So we've got.
Is this a neck through design?
This is a neck through all the way through, three-piece maple. Yeah. For stability, but I mean, he puts one thing that he does that's sort of proprietary to his brand is that he puts 2 carbon fiber rods on either side of the dual truss rod.
Okay.
So this thing is not going anywhere. It doesn't move. None of these guitars move. It's amazing.
So even if you go on tour through different climates and stuff, you probably don't have to adjust it really.
Not much at all, if not at all, really.
That's
awesome.
Yeah,
it's beautiful, man. So it plays like a dream every time I pick it up, and it's just the vocality of it, just the acoustic sound. When you're playing through it and you're kind of practicing by yourself or whatever, it's just you can hear the thing, which I think is awesome, and it just sounds great. It's resonant, and I can go on and on about it.
Well, we're going to do a Q&A section at the end, but I see people typing in questions, and people have asked questions. So we have a few on the guitar that I think we should just do now while we're talking about it.
Hell yeah.
A couple of people have asked what sort of pickups you're using in this.
Yeah, so I'm using the Kiesel Lithiums. They're my favorite ones. These are probably, and I'm not saying that just because I'm with the company. These are probably the best pickups I've used for my style, for my own personal goals and stuff. Tonal goals, I should say. They're just wide open. They're not in the way, and they're super high output, and they scream, man. You just got to hear this thing live, and I'm sure you guys have heard the new track, the new Elemental track. I mean, just the rhythms was just like one thing, was the rhythms too. Like when I'm playing on this thing, it's like with some guitars, it's kind of like you got to kind of compensate a little bit when you want a certain barky tone, when you want it to be in your face. This thing's so easy to record with. It's crazy, and I attribute that to the build for sure, but the pickups are the perfect like match with this guitar. So it's,
Cool.
it's beautiful. Yeah.
So we had another question. Someone's interested to learn about the wood stripe that goes on the front. Is this like a three-piece type of body, or how is that actually accomplished?
All it is just we've got mahogany on the bottom, and we've got flame maple. I believe it's 5 grade or 5A grade or something like that. It's a high one, but we put that on the top, just like normal.
Yep.
And he just cuts away at it. If you look at my last post, the post before the last, it shows you the cut that we do on the CNC machine.
Okay.
So, but anyway, yeah. So all he does is just cut away at the side here, the slant, and it carves it out.
So he just exposes that natural wood.
Exactly. And then we just paint here. So where this would be mahogany and this would be flame, I just decided to paint everything except for the flame stripe.
I mean, it looks really cool.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, it goes all the way around.
Yeah.
So super beautiful, man.
So other people are asking right now, is this is a 7-string?
This is 7-string, yes.
Okay. How long have you been playing 7-string? Because I know it's making an appearance more in different styles of music that you probably wouldn't expect. Obviously, right. Korn and all those guys, Steve Vai really kind of spearheaded the 7-string movement, in the 90s. But now we're seeing it almost everywhere. Not just metal, not just hard stuff.
Right.
What attracted you to 7-string, and what do you maybe attribute the kind of resurgence of it? Because it was dormant for a while.
Yeah. I just think, just for starters, I want to say back in 2013. Yeah, that's when I first got with the first company I was with. And I had ordered a 7 for a gig. And I just remember playing it and just like picking up my 6 and then putting it down and then picking it back, picking up the 7 and doing that for a while until I just started playing the 7. And then I got like a bunch of gospel gigs as well. So right off the bat, I was thrown into different styles of music because of bills I had to pay for sure. So I got to say, like, the 7 did wonders, not only for metal, like you're saying, but in my own personal experience for different styles as well. So for R&B and, playing gigs at Berkeley all the time. So that kind of thing. So jazz, whatever. I just think it needs to be there. It's just one of those things, I mean, like, along with the 8, I think the 7 is, like you said, it's becoming more prominent in all different styles. So it just made sense.
Now, as far as strings go, I know Elixir offers 7 and 8-string sets.
Right.
Do you have like a custom blend that you like, or what sort of gauges are you?
Yeah. Like I did order like a bunch of spares 64s at the bottom from them, but I actually went back to the normal. I just used the normal 10 to 59s on this, and I tuned it down to the A. Bro, these strings are crazy. I mean, they're like. I mean, I couldn't believe it because, I mean, like I said, with other guitars, even with the 7-string vibe, it's almost like you've got to compensate with the gauge to get rid of the spaghetti kind of feel with it, or whatever, the dead notes or whatever that you get with the lower strings. But one day I was like, no, let me just try it and see what happens with the 59, just to, and it's just every note.
Yeah.
It's just right there. So hats off to them for that, man. These strings are legit.
So I do want to talk a little bit about your playing style, and I don't know if you're plugged in or not, but one of the things that I noticed about your playing and other people who are kind of at that level, and there's kind of a jump between people who are good, and you can hear that they're good, and people who are at that next level. And I think a lot of it has to do with articulation. Playing fast and even playing oversaturated tonally with heavy distortion, but still being really clear on each individual note, no matter how fast it is, no matter what kind of scales you're playing.
Yeah.
Is that a combination of left and right hand, or how do you get to the point where every note, no matter how fast or whatever you're playing, is very articulate, rings out clearly? And maybe if you can just demo, because people want to hear you play. Everybody wants to
Sure. Yeah. Let me try to pull up a backing track. I just woke up and everything. So we'll see.
But I think
for me, Yeah. As far as articulation is concerned, and I'm just pulling up a backing track to show you how I practice, really. But
Okay.
as far as articulation and tone, like you just nailed it. I think it pretty much answers its own question, really, because it really is more important to be musical at the end of the day than it is to be fast, for sure. So I just think, like, I don't know, whether it be vibrato or something, like it's always been kind of a standard for me when I'm like learning, like back in the day, if I'm learning like a Joe Satriani song or something from Petrucci or whatever, like I want to sound exactly like them. I don't care about developing my own style right now. I want to learn the literature that's there, that's right in front of me. So paying very close attention to that, as close as attention you pay, and then emulate that, and the closer you get to that, is the better you're going to be at your articulation. And I feel like that mindset seeps its way into your practice routine, right? Because just because you practice for a while doesn't mean you're going to have good articulation, or just because you're fast, right? So, but I will say that when I practice, if I can demonstrate, this is just like an arpeggio that I work on for like hybrid legato. So can you guys see that? So let's just say that I'm doing like right. If I'm doing something like that, let me turn it up a little bit. But I'll take something like that. Let's say with like I don't really move the metronome up and down. I just kind of stay here and I pick a subdivision. And I make sure all the notes have their full duration. Yeah. Right? No choppiness. And if I want to get faster, I move up the subdivision.
Okay.
And so on and so forth.
But this is an interesting way to practice. Maybe some other people can try this too.
Yeah.
You're not altering the tempo.
What's that?
So one of the interesting things here, and I think other people can apply this to their own playing, is you're not altering the tempo. You're not changing the BPM. That's staying constant. What's changing is how you alter the subdivisions.
Exactly. So all the subdivisions is just a marker for speed. Really, what I'm going for, the nutrients I'm trying to sap out of this process is strength and conditioning in my hands. I want to be able to play damage control 7 times and not be worn out at all. And that's the key right there. And I think like a lot of people, if you just take that split instance when you can do something the proper way, but then you start to mess up or whatever, you start to like, oh man, I'm losing it. It's like, that's because you have an endurance issue. It's not because you're not holding your pick right or whatever, or you're not doing the right angle or all this like Troy Grady stuff, which I think is important to know about. But I think at the end of the day, you should pick a way that you want to play that's comfortable for you and try to stretch that over time. So I'll sit here for like 10, 20 minutes on just the same exercise. I'll be on that exercise all day. As long as I have it in my hands and I know that I can pick up the guitar and get back to where I need to get in 10, 15 minutes, let's say before a show or whatever, then I'm good. I'm all right. Yeah. So for me, it's all about the discipline of just that constantly nailing that whole, what would Bruce Lee say? Like, I fear not a man that knows 1,000 kicks, but I fear the man who's practiced one kick 1,000 times. That's some real shit. You know what I mean? So that's interesting. Yeah. So that's how I practice, and that's also how I work on my articulation as well.
And I think that's a good point, because the people who do 1,000 things at once, especially on guitar, they don't get to that next level of any one particular thing. And what I notice, especially when bands send us CDs and maybe it's their first time out, is a lot of sloppiness that could have just been, taken care of by, like you said, that extra discipline, that focus on doing one thing well. Yeah. Trying to play too fast and your left hand, being really sloppy and hitting the strings and not that clarity of each individual note.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just patience. It just comes down to patience, man.
We have a couple questions here. Actually, a couple repeats. So it sounds like people want to know this stuff. Are there any particular scales that you practice a lot or that you tend to favor and implement in your playing?
Well, I get this question a lot. And there's a few things you got to understand about the way that I look at music.
Mm-hmm.
For me, harmony is harmony, and scales that I gravitate toward when I practice are scales that I gravitate toward when I practice. So, like, they're not one and the same. And so I get this question a lot, like, what's your favorite mode?
Right.
So, like, my favorite mode, okay, I guess I can say it's mixo flat 13 or something, like a melodic minor mode. But this scale, like this exercise I just showed you, like this, I try to like mix arpeggios and scales together. You know, so like I can tip this down again. But like I said, I like to do this whole like, I don't know, this is from like Elemental. You know, like practicing stuff like that, like creating a kind of a harmonic texture together. That's what I love to do at the end of the day. So, you know, you've got this whole, like, you got this like C sharp, and then you have this B7, right?
Yep.
And then you have this E minor. So for me, I like to practice stuff that actually, where you can hear the melody, you can hear the harmony, sorry. You know, something like that. I'll work on and try to create something continuous out of.
Cool. So you're following the harmony, and I think it's a really good point to make, because again, one of the mistakes I think a lot of underdeveloped players make is they'll be like, okay, this is a song that has a little Latin flavor. I'll play something Dorian all the way through to the end, and you know, there's only so many notes in the Dorian mode.
Hey, and that's
you're going to hear a lot of repeats, and
right.
You're limiting yourself. You know, you're not following what the chords are doing. Yeah,
it's a good start, but I think where people, I wouldn't say that they are limiting. They're limiting themselves, but they're not doing it on purpose. I think that understanding and simplifying harmony and being more like enamored with that process than what you actually play on the guitar is more important. So like if I know like what progressions that I actually favor, like if I'm doing like a guest solo for somebody, I always pick and choose which ones I do depending on what I'm listening to, because if it's like a static vamp or something like that, then I'm probably not going to come up with much interesting stuff.
Right.
But if it's got a ton of chords in it, for me, I mean, people think because I play progressive metal predominantly that I don't like that, which I do. I want chords, I want context, I want a buildup of the actual thing, and for that, you got to do a lot less guitar playing and more like musical analysis.
Yeah.
You got to analyze songs that are actually interesting and get that into your vocabulary, and that will work its way into your practice routine. You'll make that a priority. Like I said, for me, technique is to get me to play the stuff I want to play, not to show what I can do.
Right.
I really don't give a damn what people think about my playing. I don't care. Yeah, I just want to play what I want to play.
I can't imagine there's anybody who watches you and is not impressed. We got, again, a couple of repeat questions. So if people are asking the same things, I want to make sure we touch upon them. Number one, and I think I know the answer to this, is do you teach lessons or offer tutorials? And
I do. I do private lessons right now. Right now, things are getting really busy, so the prices are pretty high. So if you're going to come in and do some lessons with me, you got to be serious. You got to be ready to rock right now. So, but if you want to get a better feel for my teaching style, I have tons of workshops on my personal website. They're super affordable and they're very, very in-depth. I actually put you're getting a lot more value, of value out of those. So check them out. I got ones out for technical forward, so it goes deeper into what I talked about as far as my own technical practice routine. So definitely get that. I have one on fretboard visualization as to how I visualize the fretboard and map it out. And then I have one on dynamic touch, which we talked about, which is articulation and stuff like that. And then the next three are just simply one's on all alternate picking, another one's on hybrid legato, and another one's on sweep picking. And that's it. And then my JTC stuff, which I have tons of that out.
So if you haven't had a chance yet, what's the URL for the website that they should go to?
So so my website, if you go to aljosephmusic.com, The tab on top, you'll see my workshops, and then you'll see my master classes. So the master classes is all JTC guitar stuff.
Yep.
So those are even more value for those. And then the workshops are my kind of like entry level kind of just going through the fundamentals of these different subjects. So
perfect.
Can't go wrong.
So definitely head there, because if you're going to learn from anybody, might as well be someone who knows their stuff. We've got a lot of questions here relating to your amp settings. People are interested to know how you set up your amp and how you get it to I'm sorry, I'm reading it while I'm talking to you.
It's all good.
You get it to sound so distorted, but not muddy or fuzzy where you can't hear each individual note. And this, again, goes back to articulation. So
Yeah.
how are you setting up your amps?
Yeah, for one, I just did a huge breakdown of my tones for the brand new Headrush MX5 pedal board, which you got to get your hands on one of those. So that's out. That's just go to my YouTube. That one is that's a brand new one that just came out like a week or two ago. Okay. So that'll break it down, but I can talk about it still. But just letting you know. Yeah, if you want to just touch on it briefly. Yeah, for sure. So for me, you know, I've gone digital. I love having amps and stuff like that. I mean, I have plenty of room for amps, and my buddy's got a studio across the street, but I still go digital, and I'm usually rocking Mark II C+, like the Mesa amp. Yeah. I'm throwing a tube screamer in front of that, and I try to get most of my drive from the pedal rather than from the amp. So the amp itself is already an aggressive sounding amp. I just kind of roll off the gain back enough to let the tube screamer do some more of the work, and then the rest of it's articulation, man. You know, like you said, it's just the way, it's all finger tone. You gotta really work on that.
And I think that's the big thing. If you're throwing distortion either in front of the amp or using the gain on the amp, you've got to be playing cleanly for it to come through. Otherwise, it's just going to be a batch of noise.
Yes. And it's tough out there, especially when you're starting out, because
you want to everything up to 10.
Yeah, you know, like I remember not knowing anything about amps and all that. So I'm playing through a crate this or a PV amp that or whatever. But I'm not talking about like the real PV stuff. I'm talking like, you know, the starter amp stuff. So the first thing to do is definitely get yourself some gear where you can play with it. And I think we're very blessed today to have access to this digital stuff, this digital software, because we can, it's very accurate to real life. And you know, I've been in and out of studios most of the duration of the time I've been playing. So I know how to mic up. I know what mics to choose. I know what pre's to use, all that stuff. And I'm telling you, they've got it locked down with this. So definitely check out that MX5. It's super affordable, and it's just so accurate, you know. So, and check out the video. I can go way more in depth.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because there's a lot of snobs out there who are like, oh, you need this tube amp and this. But in a mix, 99% of people aren't going to be able to tell the difference between today's digital modeling and impulse responses and speaker placement and all that stuff.
Yeah, like I remember when. Yeah, I remember when it was called convolution software or technology or whatever back in the day. I remember when they started off with just one cab, and it was like overly distorted, and it was like this box in Windows. I mean, I remember that in high school. I'm 34 years old. That's a long time ago. Like, I remember how long ago that was and like where they are now. And it's just like, to be a snob, it's like, you don't like, okay, like if you're gonna be a snob about it, cool, but if you got 500 amps in your studio, where are you going with those? Like, what are you doing with them? Like, I mean, I'm trying to get, especially with keeping up with coming out with music in a consistent, it's just, if I don't have a real studio that I'm working in, then this is the next best thing, you know, just coming in there. I go to my buddy's studio, bring my Headrush, plug in. I've got my tones. They're there. What's up?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's crazy. Anyway, I don't.
It's practical. It sounds great. It's mobile, so you can pick it up and take it with you.
Yeah, man.
I think the days of the snobbery are coming to an end, because you know, people are realizing how good this stuff does sound when they actually.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, man. Yeah, I was on tour with Angel Vivaldi like 2-3 years ago or something like that, and I'll never forget this guy, the sound guy, the manager. He's one of those guys that just does a lot of big bands, you know, like big real like bands out there, right? So like he was just we're on stage, and Angel's got these like the brand new JP2C amplifiers on either side of the stage, and I'm going, oh boy, I get to use the brand new Mesas, you know what I mean? So so I'm a snob as much as anyone else. Like, I know about tubes. I can tell you, I can talk your head off for hours about that stuff. Sure. But when you're on stage and you've got two JP2Cs on either side of a stage that's like not as big as what Dream Theater's playing every night, you're gonna have problems with your sound. You're always gonna have issues. And I just remember I had my head rush primarily to switch my amp settings, because I was using my Laney amps at the time, and like, I got to tell you, man, he was just like one of the days he was just like, dude, just plug this in, and let's just try having you not in an amp for just one show. It's just one show. And I got to tell you, man, ever since then, I've just been like, all right, enough with the amp stuff. I'm just like, I don't want to be hauling amps around, lugging them around just to get a sound that's just not going to be optimal on stage, or have to set it up every single time I come in studio and go through that whole thing. So I just like to have my reliable sound, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, I think that makes sense. Unfortunately, we're coming to the end of our time here. I want to say again 1,000 thank yous to you, Al, for joining us.
Of course.
Before we go, you should definitely one more time plug any URLs or any social handles that people can catch you on, because I know there's a lot of videos out there for people to check out, not only lessons and stuff, but of you playing your favorite.
Word. Cool. Yeah. So just head over to my Instagram. I say start there, Al Joseph Music. Yeah. I'm always posting links to all the things I got going on. So definitely check out also the link in my bio right now, the Kiesel's website. My signature is out Friday, and you'll get access to that, and all the specs are there. So I'll just be talking about it.
So if you want to check out more of Al, definitely Al Joseph Music on Instagram. The videos are awesome. The new guitar is coming out, so take a look at the specs on that. And again, thank you so much, and hopefully we'll catch up again soon. And thank you to everybody who joined us and asked questions.
Yeah, thank you guys. And thank you, man. Appreciate it.
All right. We'll catch you later, Al. Thanks so much.
All right. Take care.